Yo, what's up guys? Welcome back to another episode here at Sobriety University. On this channel, we talk about addiction and recovery related topics. And in this video, we're gonna be talking about how to really get sober from alcohol. So alcohol was one of the toughest addictions I had to quit. A very painful experience. I'm just gonna be honest up front. I talked about in the last video, which will be linked below, how I'm gonna start getting a little more real, a little more deep into the truth behind getting clean from addiction. I've talked about a lot of the positives and maybe have shed a light that makes it sound quite easy, simple, which it is. It's simple. It's definitely not easy though. And I know that it's been a very painful process, each addiction I've gone through. So I think that is something I want to touch on more. So in regards to alcohol, yes, it is very painful. It was a lot of stuff happened, a lot of sweating, a lot of detoxification. And before I dive into that, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps the channel. We're getting to 500 subs here, which is pretty exciting. And definitely would love to hear your experience with quitting alcohol or any other addiction. Really helps kind of shed the light to some other folks that might be going through it. So back into this video here. Quitting alcohol, a very painful process. What happened personally was I experienced a few things. First being night sweats, that kind of just sweating out all the toxins. I experienced a lot of anxiety, and I experienced personally a lot of dry heaving and a lot of wanting to throw up, just being sober without the alcohol. It was the oddest thing. I drank so much, and part of my using experience or drinking experience was puking at the end of the night. I found it quite relaxing and just enjoyable, which sounds kind of deranged, but it's the truth, and I'll explain why here. So for anyone that doesn't know, puking elicits and releases oxytocin, so which is obviously a really feel-good chemical. And so people that have bulimia and deal with that kind of issue, it makes a lot of sense why they puke every night and why they're addicted to why they have the bulimic experience, is because puking releases that oxytocin. So in a sense, puking can be addictive, and that's what I experienced totally. So when I stopped drinking, I noticed that I would be walking down the street, I would just start, it was the craziest thing, my body was just convulsing. And so thankfully that stopped. I thankfully didn't puke once, just in normal day-to-day life. However, comment down below if you've experienced the dry heaving syndrome with quitting alcohol. So the other thing was night sweats, so just having to make sure that I went to bed when I was tired, because otherwise, if I stayed past that threshold of being tired, I'm sure many of you have experienced, you start to feel more energized, and then you can stay up for another 3 hours. I knew if that was going to happen, I wasn't going to get any sleep because of the sweating and the anxiety and stuff. So when I was tired, I had to go to sleep, and that was super beneficial. Also getting rid of bed sheets and stuff, because many nights I'd wake up and my bed would be soaked. And so that happened with weed as well. Just any of the real, I think the harder substances. The other thing too was in the detoxification process, I found exercise to be very helpful. For any of you that exercise, you know how good it feels after a workout. And for any of you guys that are also have had addiction problems, you know that love of pleasure, that seeking of pleasure. And we'll go one deeper here. For anyone that's ever quit alcohol, you know how not very pleasurable it can be. So having something to do that can release that natural dopamine just once a day during that initial stage was very beneficial, in just being okay, I've experienced some joy today, I can make it to the next day. For me, that was running, that was lifting. I found running to be the most beneficial, because I could just let out all that anxiety, let off all that anger and steam and rage, or whatever I was feeling, really get a deep sweat, so to help kind of detoxify all that gunk that was still trying to seep out of my body. It really sped that process along. I've heard saunas are really beneficial too in detoxification. Just any kind of sweating can be very beneficial, and was very beneficial in quitting alcohol, and just being able to make it to that next day. For any of you guys that have been in recovery, you know the saying, one day at a time. And that's so true, especially in those beginning stages. It's just how can I get to the next day? and finding a little bit of joy and pleasure sometimes was enough to get through that next day. So the final thing we'll talk about today is getting into a support group. I'm gonna link a video down below that talks about the power of support groups. I can't say the names of the support groups for privacy reasons. However, if you have any common sense, put 2 and 2 together, you'll figure it out. And these were very helpful because I could be expressive, I could be open, I could really just feel like I'm in an okay place to talk about the pain I was in. Not only that, the people that were in the rooms, they had gone through the same experience or were going through the same experience. So I felt that I wasn't being judged, and that was very important in such a vulnerable time. That is very important in such a vulnerable time. And just seeing these people who were apparently at one point going through the same pain I was going through, the same agony, the same sweats, the same maybe dry heaving, the same lack of appetite, being unable to eat, all that misery, all that suffering. They were sitting there, they were laughing, they had these smiles on their faces, they obviously had friends, they had families maybe, they had these jobs, careers, they could support all the above, all the things that usually don't happen that when one's in deep addiction. I'm like, okay, if they got through what I'm going through and they're where they are now, there has to be something at the end of this pain. There has to be a reason I'm going through this. And that was sometimes, again with just getting through the next day, that was enough to get through the next day whenever I would go to these groups. So support groups, super helpful, super beneficial. Definitely can recommend checking those out. And so the last topic I want to talk about here today, it was one that just kind of came up that I had forgotten about, was loss of appetite. So getting sober, making sure that the diet is really clean, making sure I'm eating good whole foods, fruits and veggies, anything to just kind of give that little boost of energy, really help the body just kind of declutter in a sense. So berries are really good antioxidants, lots of water for sure. Obviously being hydrated is the opposite of being drunk. So making sure I'm having lots of liquids, lots of electrolytes. Obviously electrolytes are no mystery now and the importance of it. And just, again, just kind of the way I like to see it is just finding any little buffer that can help the process along, because it's going to be painful. So anything that I can do to make the experience a little less painful is going to be enough for me. And the beautiful thing about this is, after all said and done, most likely there's been some good new habits that have been integrated through this process. And so I know I thank myself for having made these changes when I was in the real dark stages of life, because now they're just habits that I do every day without even thinking about it, and it's made such a huge difference. Such a huge difference, I can't even comprehend what life would be like without. It'd probably be a lot more painful, a lot more mentally exhausting. And since I did these habits when I was going through this hell of quitting alcohol, it's just it's a no-brainer now. So that's definitely something to keep in mind too, is that these things that I'm doing now to get through this process of detoxification and getting sober are really going to help long-term create just a way better life for myself. So with that, guys, that's going to end the video for today. Thanks for tuning in, and talk to you in the next one. Peace.